Less is more in terms of I tried to be all the things or offer them all the things. And I realized a life of less really is richer. And so obviously we talk about this a lot, but we do less things now. We have less things. I think, strive for less, and our life is so much richer.
You are listening to the Famous at Home podcast with Dr. Josh and Christi Straub.
Because when it's all said and done, we all want to know that we were famous at home. Welcome back to the Famous at Home podcast. Today we are in part 2 of an interview with my dear, amazing bride, Christi. Before we jump in with that, here is a word from our sponsors. Hey everybody, Josh Straub here with Famous at Home. We want to introduce you to the Famous at Home Starter Bundle. This is something we created just for you. All you have to do is click the button to sign up to receive our workbook, 7 decisions to putting your family center stage. You'll also get a feelings chart handout that you can implement with your kids and with your spouse. And you'll also receive the 100 commonly held values worksheet so that you can sit down with your family and discuss the values that you want to set as a family that will provide vision for how and you want to lead your family in the direction that you're going to head in. So you get those 3 things right away as soon as you sign up. In addition to that, we will send to you our top podcast episodes on marriage, parenting, and family, the most listened to and the most foundational for developing emotional connection with your loved ones. You'll also receive past newsletters, our exclusive weekly newsletter. You'll be enrolled to receive that on an ongoing basis. These are real-time newsletters of what's happening in our lives and what we're doing and implementing to be famous at home that we want to give to you, just weekly nuggets to keep us equipped every single week. And then you'll also receive the weekly podcast episodes as well. This starter bundle is all free. We want to give it to you. Just click the link to sign up. All right, so last week we talked with you, Christi, about motherhood, healing, and finding your voice. And
I didn't know that's what we were going to talk about.
I didn't
that
either,
is where it went.
And it kind of went where it did. We were going to do one episode of an interview with me to Christi, and it didn't go where I expected it to, and maybe today won't go where I expect it to either. But we decided to do a part 2 because it just kind of went where it did, which I think was helpful. And if it was helpful for you, I encourage you to reach out, let us know. We'd love to hear from you on that. One of the things that I'm going to try to pull out of Christi today is stories of where she's at in motherhood. This will kind of be, I'm assuming, a part 2, similar, healing, finding your voice, although we might put a different title on it. I don't even know yet till it's all said and done, but that's how this is. We're running a little frantic today. This is a little bit of a crazy week for us because today is our dog's birthday. Tomorrow is our youngest son's birthday.
Copper is 5 today.
So
Micah is 3.
3 tomorrow.
That's just hard to believe.
And how do you, I don't know if you guys celebrate your dog's birthday or your cat's birthday or whatever that is, but I kind of, it's kind of one of those, like, we actually even forgot how old he was this year. We had to look it up.
Yeah. Well, I thought he was 4, and then
I realized, year off.
Our friends were like, "Were you pregnant with him were you pregnant with Micah when you got Copper?" And I was like, "Surely wasn't. So he must be 5."
Yeah. So Copper's 5 today, which I guess is 35 years old.
He acts like
he acts like well,
I don't know, like a 13-year-old. Is that even fair? Like a 10-year-old? Or a toddler.
He's a toddler.
I don't know. He's like Micah.
He and Micah are not a lot different right now.
No, they actually play together like they're siblings. It's hilarious, actually.
What do you guys do for your pets' birthdays?
Do people celebrate pets' birthdays? Actually, I know they do because I took Kennedy to the pet store last night, and I drove by the normal pet store, like the big box one, like PetSmart or whatever it is. Totally, because we were talking and I got lost and realized I drove past it, and there's a sweet little local place. Where I turned around, I was like, well, thank you, Lord. Yes, let's support our sweet locals. But I went in there and they're trying to sell me like a $75 like antler of something for him because he's a big chewer. I'm like, and I'm not buying this. This is Kennedy's trying to buy something for her dog for his birthday. I'm like, she's 8. I don't think she wants to pay $75 for an antler. Anywho, but they brought me, there's a whole birthday section for pets in the pet store. Like you can buy an $8 box of, I think it was carrot cake flavored cake for a dog.
Wow.
I'm like, I think that's cheaper at the grocery store. Like an $8 box. Like you have to still make it. Anyway, like this is a bougie dog that's getting you to hand make them a cake.
We are not hand making our dog a cake, by the way. If I could
she
say
wanted
that.
to get it, the cake mix. And I was like, honey, we could give him a loaf of bread and he'd be thrilled.
Yeah,
so we don't need to do that.
Maybe today we'll give him some beef. And
she got him some bones stuffed with like cheese and bacon flavor or something.
Yeah.
He'll be thrilled.
He'll be thrilled.
He was thrilled. We took him for a walk this morning and he gets to go to the dog park this afternoon.
He loves his life.
He's literally
Why can't we be so easily pleased? Actually, I think we are so easily pleased. That gets into a whole other conversation.
That is a whole other conversation. That might go there.
I think we are easily pleased. I think that's our problem today. Okay.
But not with the right things. We're not
right.
delighted in the good things.
We're not delighted in the good things. He's delighted in the good things. Go for a walk. Go to the park.
I mean, you just walk.
Do the good
you
things.
walk in the door, and he's like, it's as if he just saw the queen.
I know.
And like his whole face, like he actually smiles. I don't know if your dogs smile. He like literally smiles. He looks like such an idiot. It's adorable. And then his whole tail like moves his entire body, like his whole back end just like waves coming at you.
When are you going to start doing that for
when
me when I come through the door? Just waving your hind end, you know?
When did I come home from the other day and you were like, Micah was right there. That'll get into something. Who was it that told us one time, when you come in the door, greet your spouse first before you greet the kids?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I don't know who it was that told us that. I mean, it is a great piece of advice. I just don't find it to be very practical when you have like a dog, a toddler,
right.
and then two like our kids are, so they'll be 11 and 9 this summer. And then Micah turns 3 tomorrow. And so like they're still in that lover stage. Like Landon is just, I pray he stays in it till he's 45, but anyway, they just barrel for me or for you.
And I have to fight them to get to you.
Right. So.
And you should see me fight. When she comes in the door, I fight. I push
you
my
like
kids
toss
away.
The toddler out of the way.
I'm like fighting to get to her.
Kicking the
my
dog.
butt's wagging.
You should actually do that sometime.
All right. So let's jump in here. Are you guys? Yeah. I
don't know why I'm apologizing. There's one thing I've been working on.
Okay.
Not apologizing. Did you ask me what I'm working on? I don't know. I just assumed.
You take. This is what happened last week.
You didn't even ask me a question.
We didn't even get into an interview.
Talking.
You just started talking and you started explaining
here's
things.
Something.
But
ask me a question about me. Let me tell you. I have talked since I was little. Like my mom and dad have always said, I've loved the sound of my own voice. That I've always loved, like, i.e. I've just loved to talk. And they're like, I think you just loved the sound of your voice, like, since you were little. And you couldn't even say words. You would just la, 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 la. And I can't sing to save my life, but I do like to talk. And it's funny that I don't know who I was telling the other day. It was some random person. She didn't know me from Adam. And I was like, yes, I do know. She was praying over me at church. And she was like, about our ministry, and she was prophesying over me. It was beautiful. And I was like, well, we do have a ministry now. And we have a podcast. And for us, like, I get to use my voice. So I guess it really does come full circle that I get to talk and hear my own voice. Although I don't really ever listen back to the podcast. So I only hear it right now because that's weird.
Do you want to start listening to yourself?
No, I really don't. I don't know. I do, in that I want to be teachable, and like, I realize there is wisdom in listening so that you could be better, because I don't, and I'm just totally honest, I don't actually listen to podcasts really. When I'm alone, I think because I'm with the kids all the time, or I'm with clients.
You don't need someone else
and
talking to you.
I just want, I need no less voices. So I don't listen to podcasts. So I don't even know what the great podcast is. You know, does that make sense? Like,
You're not a podcast girl.
I probably could do better at that though, and actually listen to myself, because I'm sure I could be way better.
Speaking of that, so if I could jump in.
Sorry, I'll
you
stop
wouldn't
talking.
mind me jumping in here and interviewing you. You mentioned the word teachable there. I might as well just jump in with some questions here that I have. You mentioned the word teachable, but then you also mentioned that you're working on not apologizing. So explain that for us. What does that mean? What is that part of helping yourself?
The teachable part? So the teachable part,
well, I think
that came actually from my mom. My mom, when I was probably like a teenager, and I remember asking her what she thought the most important quality in a spouse was, like what to look for. I didn't really date in high school. There's a story with that. I did have a 7-page list in what I was praying for in my husband. So there's not many guys in high school that really make that list.
You didn't make that list after high school though.
I know, but it was in my head. I wrote it down after high school. But yes, my standards were high, and that's okay. And I pray that over my daughter and my sons. Anywho, but
I must have been a stud.
Baby, you were.
With
I
sideburns.
prayed for you for so long.
Big sideburns.
You also were healing that. Like you had healed though a ton by the time I met you. We talk about this. Like we would have never gotten married if we had we didn't grow up in the same country, nor even really the same. Josh is 4 years older than me. I don't know if we've ever said this. Josh is 4 years older than me. And so like I was in high school when you were in college.
Right.
So we would not have dated for many, many, many reasons. But
so
what was my point?
No, teachable.
My
and then
mom,
also
her answer was
be teachable.
That teachability was, she thought, the most important quality in looking for in a spouse. And I realized now what wisdom that is, because if you're both teachable, like you really can handle anything. You can really change anything.
And it's an amazing quality to instill in your kids.
Oh, that's such an amazing quality. So I have worked on that. I think pride comes out of wounding, where we feel insecure. And so I know that whenever I feel pride come up, that's like a really tender part of me that was wounded somewhere along the way and is trying to like be big, and trying to be impressive. And so the opposite of that really is being teachable. Yes, it's being humble, but like, I think sometimes I don't really know what humility, like how do you live out that? And I think it's teachability.
So tell me about that in relation to giving up apologizing.
Oh,
because that doesn't seem to go together.
I don't know that it does go together. Did I say it went together?
No, you didn't, but I'm trying to process that for those listening. Like if you're teachable, you're going to be someone who apologizes. You're going to be someone who
I see.
You're going to be someone who is.
Yes and no.
You're going to be somebody who is giving into the grain of truth in somebody else's criticism.
Right. I do apologize. I think I am not needlessly apologizing though. I grew up in Canada. We are very nice people, in air quotes. And instead of, this is what I've noticed with Americans versus Canadians. In the stores here, you like run into somebody or someone's like in your way, people will say, excuse me, which makes sense, right? Like, excuse me. But that felt so like ostentatiously bold to me. In Canada, it's like, oh, sorry. We like apologize for being present. And I could be totally wrong because I go back to Canada now. I'm like, this is not the Canada I remember.
But tone of voice is also different. It also plays a major factor.
Oh, for sure. But I think there was this,
because you're saying excuse me as like excuse me versus like
sorry. Sorry is like,
and there's an excuse me, and then there's a sorry.
Totally. But in my head, that's still, it feels bold. It's like saying the word just in emails, you're like, just checking in, or like in a text, like just wondering how it's like apologizing for your presence beforehand.
Yeah, I tried to get rid of the word just
I have
in my
too.
emails. And
So that's what I'm saying is I'm trying to apologize less for things that I don't need to apologize. I don't need to apologize for taking
present.
up space
Yeah.
and
That's
being
good.
present. That's what I mean by that.
So we're going to take a break here briefly, and we're going to come back, and I'm going to ask Christi maybe some questions. We'll be right back afterward from these sponsors. Hey everybody, Josh Straub here with Famous at Home. I want to introduce you to something if you haven't already seen it. This is our new book, Famous at Home, 7 Decisions to Putting Your Family Center Stage in a World Competing for Your Time, Attention, and Identity. When a couple or a family comes to us and says, hey, Josh, we have a question. What do we do next? We always point to this book. This is our coaching playbook. This is the play-by-play strategies that we use to help families to be famous at home. And so if you have not picked up this book yet, we highly encourage you to get a copy. You can see a link in the show notes. You can click a link right here in the video, and we would love for you to be able to get a copy of this in your hands. If you want to go deeper than the podcast episodes, this is the way to do that. It's our way of walking alongside your family to help you be famous at home. All right, we are back, and I'm going to attempt to ask Christi here. Actually, this is great. Like, it's fun because there's actually back and forth conversation.
You're making me feel like I'm a terrible interviewee.
No, it probably speaks more to my interviewing skills than it does you being an interviewer. I think you're a great interviewee.
I'm also very comfortable with my interviewer, so I can just talk at nauseam.
And so this interviewer probably isn't, I think of Joe Rogan, like his ability to just ask great questions.
Well, he'd probably just like cut me off and just speak over me.
Tell me about this.
Yeah.
But he's brilliant. He's a brilliant interviewer.
I've actually never listened to him, but I know people adore him.
You need to listen to him. Okay. No ad there, by the way. That was just my preference. What have you recently found for yourself? And maybe this isn't recently, maybe this is over the long run.
Okay.
The single greatest thing to help you be a better mom.
I do know that answer.
Like, what for you has been the single greatest thing to help you be a better mom?
I'm gonna cry. Time with the Lord, hands down. And I know that's probably cliche, or like yeah, but like hands down, it's the only thing. Like, it's changed my life. And just this past Sunday, we had a pastor speak on basically Martha versus Mary. Was it Martha versus Mary, or was just the comparative stance of the two of them? And I wept at church. And most of that was because I've realized I've always felt very hidden and not seen, and like I was actually missing out on something, like I was doing something wrong maybe. I don't know that I thought I was doing something wrong, but there was always an element of doubt. Like, surely, you see all those flashy people out there doing really great things. And I've just felt the Lord hide me, like tether me into this hidden place, in the secret place. And so Sunday was just it was like the Lord's sweet encouragement of like, you've chosen the best thing. And so I don't claim to have done a ton of things right or fabulous in my life, but that's one thing that's been my constant, and not in all seasons. Like, I went through college season and I totally drifted from the Lord, but I think I needed that season too, to feel like what an untethered ship out in the ocean feels like, because that's what I felt like all the time. And coming home was like, coming back to the Lord was like coming home again. It was like, come home to me. And in me, you will find all of your strength and all of your peace. And I know that sounds so vague. And to other people who have never walked with God or even known his character, like, you might know him, but to actually know his character, I know that just sounds so out there, like airy fairy, like sure. I remember thinking this, like people talk about like Jesus or God as if he's this, well, Jesus is the answer. And I'm like, cool. I need I don't understand that. I need an answer now. Like I need something with skin on, something tangible that I can hold on to. And slowly over time spent with him and time not in a striving way where I'm just like trying to get an answer from him or trying to understand something but actually more in a receiving place, which is so much less work. I just wish I'd known that earlier. But that's been the place that I've gotten all of my confidence, all of my security, and my wisdom to know what to do with my kids. And not that I think I've got it down because I just ask him daily. Because I need to, because I don't know.
Explain to me how you get time to do that and what that has looked like for you to cultivate a relationship with the Lord with an almost 11, 9, and a 3-year-old, because it's all hands on deck a lot of times. Mm-hmm. We homeschool. We have our own business. We do this together. There's a whole bunch of, there's so many components going on. Mm-hmm. Where do you even get time to do that? Talk about that.
And I think
what's that look like for you? What is your day to day? What is your month to month? What are the practices to help you?
And I will say, first off, I do well sometimes and then not so great in other seasons. And I feel like that's life though. It's this ebbs and flows, like a roller coaster sort of, where there's fast seasons and slow seasons.
And I think it's also too, same thing with relationships. Like this is a relationship with somebody.
Yeah. There's seasons of more intensity where I think he's growing things in me and I know that, I can feel that. And then there's times where it's just sort of more of a coasting, where it's like, I know you're there and I love you. And I don't need to be so intense right now.
And do you feel like that's okay?
Yeah.
Like having those things where, because I just imagine shame, like the shame come into play.
I used to feel like that 100%. That's the religious spirit. I was so like, if you don't have your quiet time every day, or if it doesn't look like this and I'm not reading the word or reading this much, or I don't know, then it was like, I'm failing. It's been recently, I would say the last 2 years maybe, where I've felt this freedom of I'm his and he has me and I'm not trying to prove anything. He just loves me and I am the beloved and he is mine. And it's not playing games anymore. I think before it was like playing games, to be like, I want to be on your good side sort of thought. And I don't want you to be mad. I didn't really ever think God was mad at me, but maybe disappointed or just that voice, like you could do better. And I don't hear it as often anymore. But practically what that looks like is I have an amazing husband for example, this morning I got up at 5 because I have a son that woke up. What time did you wake up this morning?
He was up at 5:25, but he came down around 5:40.
Yeah. So I don't always have that discipline. There are days that I don't, for sure. There are seasons that I don't. I have to get up before him in order to have quiet. I could sit and read the word or something with him up and around. I can't pray and listen
There's
to
no
God.
way you can.
No.
He's wanting to play trains. He's wanting to play cars.
Yeah.
Come play with me. Come do this with me. I need this. I need that. It is full on. And so, if you're listening to this, you have kids, you understand it. Yeah. But it's not like, he's going to play by himself at this stage of his life. He's not going to play by himself.
He used
where
to.
we can sit and do
but
this.
He is in
he's in a season of life right now where he just wants mom and dad and our presence and our time. And so
I'm saying that to just that's why 5 a.m. is not even that's not even really early enough for me. For us,
it's not
Josh
early
didn't
enough.
really get time this morning at all, alone and with God. So I'm saying he took Micah this morning and went and worked out, and Micah went with him, and I was able to just be with the Lord. Last week, I went to, now I don't do this super often, but I realized it'd been too long since I had. I went for a whole day to this place, a sweet woman who lives here, near us here. She's a spiritual director. So if you're familiar with spiritual direction, it's a beautiful ministry to the body. But basically they ask really wonderful questions and draw you deeper into your walk with God, especially in those places where you get blocked. And so that's what she does, but that's how she was trained. But she then built this little building. It's sort of like I think they have their lawn mowers and stuff on the bottom floor. And then they built this like upper floor on top of it. It has like a bed, a couch, a couple chairs, a table, a little sink, little, fridge. So, and it's beautiful. But you can just go, and it's called the Pistinia, but it's a place to go and be with God. And so you cannot go with someone else. Like you can't, go as a couple or something. It's just
not a honeymoon suite.
It is not a honeymoon suite. It is just for
honeymoon
you and
with
God.
the Lord.
That's weird. It's weird and it's not. I'm reading Song of Songs right now, by the way. In the Passion Translation, I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. The Passion Translation of Song of Songs will change your life. I'm just going to put that out there.
I do think there is a, it goes back to the seasons. We have honeymoon seasons with God. We have, frustrating seasons with God where we're angry at him and mad at each other, and there's disappointment and there's frustration. And I think there's
just like life, it's all mixed in too, right? Like I went to the Pistinia and I realized it'd been months since I've been. And because the kids are home all the time, between work and the kids, like I don't have time alone really, especially when Mike is up at 5:25. So, and then the older ones are up later now because they're getting a little bit older. And so I basically fall asleep after they go to bed. And so I just realized how much I had built up resentment, anger, frustration with God. And so the first half of my day, I just spent saying out loud everything that I was upset about and everything on my mind, like everything. Like, I'm mad at you because of this. I'm frustrated with you because of this. Where have you been? Why have you been silent? As you can hear, it was like real. And I realized, and it was like everything had to come out. And the Lord was just like, there you are. I've been waiting for you. Been waiting for you to say all that. But he also knows and has grace for this space. Like he knows what we're handling in the day and day. So that would be that infusion, like that time. I know that's rare. And I don't know for everyone listening, I think that would look totally different. I think some of you, if your kids are in school, you do have quiet, maybe some quiet moments in your home, or maybe you don't. Maybe it's in your car, commuting, but I would also really encourage you that if there is an opportunity for you to go to a park, even if you had to rent an Airbnb or a hotel room, it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing I would say too is, finding time, you're not going to get, I think God gives us grace in the moment. And so there's a lot of times where I am spending time with him while I'm cooking dinner. I'm spending time with him while I'm, like last night, I was making fish tacos. My daughter jumps in. We had a sweet time together, but there was parts of it that I was by myself and I just had worship playing, and I'm just spending time with God while I'm baking and cooking, I should say. You did the baking, I did the cooking. And so I think there's a component to that. And I think what's also, I want to highlight here is last week's conversation with Christi on motherhood and healing and finding your voice really entered into more of her healing through her back, physiotherapy to therapy. I have seen a transition this week where we're talking about the single greatest influence in motherhood has been her time with the Lord. And I just want to say this too. I think, and we see this often, I just want to highlight something. that as we talk about motherhood, as we talk about, showing up as healthy parents for the next generation, that therapy is important, coaching is important, spiritual direction is important. There's practices that are important. Exercising is important. I believe all these things are important because we're holistic beings. And we've seen that in your healing through the years. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't have the fuel of a relationship with Jesus, it's only going to last for so long. It's only going to help for a season. You have to have that component. And that more than anything else, I think, has healed our family, or has been the healing agent of our family, even in the midst of doing therapy and having the people around us and that type of thing.
He is the healing agent.
He is the healing agent. And he uses other people to do that.
Yeah. He'll put different modalities or people in your path to do it, but it is him. And I also just want to speak to all those that are a place that are like, I don't know. Like, I don't know him. Or I think this is what's so common is like, I know about him and I'm familiar with him, but it feels like maybe he belongs to everyone else and not to you. Like everyone else knows him and talks about him, but you don't have him. Like he doesn't care for you individually, specifically, like he does to everyone else. And I just want to say, like, press in to that. And I just pray that Jesus, you meet them there right now. To every single person that I'm speaking to right now whose heart is like fluttering because they know what this feels like. I just pray that you would meet them. I pray that you would show them your face. I pray that you would appear to them in the quiet seasons, in the quiet spaces, that they would hear your voice and see your face and come to know you in an intimate way. Because it only takes one encounter where you actually like see him or hear him. And then it's like, oh, he's mine too. He's for me too. And then it starts the biggest adventure of your life, where you just get to find him more and more. But I pray that for you because I know exactly what that feels like. And I think that's part of, I was very disillusioned moving to the US because I lived in the Bible Belt and everyone talked about Jesus and it felt like he didn't belong to me anymore. It was like everybody else, I don't know, he's for everyone else and not me. And so if you feel that way, I hold your hand and I hold your hope until you find it for you.
Wow, that's good. That's a good word. I want to ask this question. So from the time that you became a mom, I mean, you're only almost 11 years, well, you're 11 years into this thing. But I've seen so much growth in you in those 11 years. And I think that's the key here, right? It's like, how are we growing? I mean, obviously when we first become parents, I think often we always look back and we're like, wow, who were we? Like, what in the world? Like, Lord, you trusted me enough. Like, what were you thinking to give me a little baby to take home and care for?
It was the toddler years. How'd you trust me with? Oof.
And so this is the question. I wish I would have known then what I know now about being a mom.
Less is more.
Go ahead and talk about that. You were gonna give a whole bunch.
Freedom is the goal. Confidence is coming. And like, I have your kids. Like, your kids are secure. Like, you don't need to I am their security. Less is more in terms of I tried to be all the things or offer them all the things. And I realized a life of less really is richer. And so we do, obviously we talk about this a lot, but we do less things now. We have less things. I think, strive for less, and our life is so much richer. Our kids are more peaceful. I am more peaceful. Answer. Our home environment is peaceful. They are well. They are doing well. because not just me, we as a team, but like we've let go of all the striving for more. The hope is never in the more. Like the more you get, I think the more stressed you become. So, and we get to see that a lot with a lot of the people we help who've just done beautiful things with their life, and they're just overwhelmed by, it becomes too much. It's too much. And so, less is more. Freedom is the goal. Is the world will put you in bondage. The world will chain you and addict you and your kids. And that's their goal. And Jesus said that I came is for freedom, that I came to set my people free. Like it's for freedom, for freedom, for freedom. I don't even know that we know what freedom is until we start to taste a little bit of it. And then we think that's free. And then we taste a little bit more. We're like, oh my gosh, no, that's what free feels like. I think it's like healing. You don't realize how far you have to go and how much bondage you've been in to lies, to shame, to fear, to money, to all the addictions of this world. And then you start to taste a little bit of freedom. And I'm telling you, that's the goal. It's freedom for me. It's freedom for my kids. It's freedom for our family. And that looks like, people are like, what does that look like? Well, I think it looks like being entirely bonded to Jesus and entirely letting go of the expectations and the control and manipulation of this world.
And the idols of this world, yeah. Yep. Which takes us all the way back to the beginning. I'm going to close the entire loop.
Wow, you are good at that.
Dogs.
Birthdays.
Are so easily entertained. They're delighted. They're delighted in the right things. And so are we. We're too easily entertained. We're too easily taken by the ways of the world. And that's what gets us in bondage.
It's good. It's the lesser things. It's C.S. Lewis's quote, why would you're content making mud pies when you could have a holiday by the sea. And I think that's it. I have lived those seasons of being super happy with making my mud pie. And I had no idea he was offering a holiday by the sea. And it's the same in my motherhood. It's like, I thought this was like, I have to make the best of this menial, begrudging task. And he's like, no. Like, I have so much more for you. And like yesterday Landon asked me to make banana bread with him in the kitchen. And in certain seasons would be like, I don't, maybe later, I can't, whatever. Like you know what that feels like when you just feel overwhelmed. Like you have too much on, it feels too serious things. So like to do something like that in the middle of the day is like, no. And I celebrate that yesterday because I was like, yeah, let's do it. And he was like, it could just be you and me, Mom. And I was like, yeah, buddy, that'd be awesome. So Kennedy and Micah went upstairs to play, and he and I just made this banana bread. And I made him multiply fractions because I'm a homeschool mom. But
I did that with Kennedy while we were cooking dinner.
It's so great. It's what math is for. Anyway, so we did that. But I was like, it was kind of painstaking because he's like having to do it all himself. And I would normally just jump in and just take over because of the pressure of what? I don't know. We're hurrying towards something. And this was like, no, we're just going to make this. It was fantastic. And I was dancing through the kitchen, which if I can tell you, like I haven't done that in decades. Like I haven't been free enough to do that in literally decades. And so that was it was this glimpse of a moment where I felt freedom. And I attribute that 100% to the Lord. And so I am so grateful that I can see. And even it says like there is power in the word of our testimony. And so I thank you for whoever is listening. If you've made it this far, I just thank you for receiving the word of my testimony, because I pray that over you too, because now you have the power to unlock it in your life. Because you have to hear it and be witness to something. I think bear witness to something before you're able to receive it for yourself. And I thank everyone who's gone before me who's been that for me.
That's amazing. It's such a great example of, and I'm watching it. I just want to, as a witness to all of the growth that you have had, to the freedom. I was in here working yesterday and I heard you dancing in the kitchen. It's beautiful to watch. And I think for every single one of us, that's the healing we want to strive for. But you're only going to find it in relationship with Jesus. You're not going to find it in the world. The world will push you further and further into busyness and hurry sickness and away from him. Mm-hmm. And I think we have to pay attention that every single decision that we're making is leading us either closer to God or further away from God. And that is going to dictate the direction of our family, the cohesiveness of our family, the freedom that we get to experience, and therefore then the ripple effect of the freedom that our kids get to experience. And so,
and can I just add one thing just real fast? Because you said like to strive for healing. And I think there is such great intention with that. And that is true. But I have a mentor that says we don't do this to fix or to save ourselves, but because we matter. And so that shifts everything when you're doing this to pursue God because you matter and you matter to him. And you're, even if you don't know that yet, it's like, I'm just coming in with this little grain of some sort of belief that I matter. And I'm going to give that to you. And I'm going to ask you to give it back to me and prove it that it's true, that I matter to you. And that I'm not just a fix it project or I need you to save me. It's because my soul has such worth. Like I'm really, really matter.
Which is why he died.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening. Next week, we will be jumping into some other conversations around fatherhood as we enter into the Father's Day weekend here in June. But I just want to say thank you once again on behalf of, I think, of all of our listeners. Thank you for opening up your heart and sharing with us on motherhood.
Thank you for listening.
Until next week, keep in mind that the greatest red carpet you will ever walk is through your front door.
Keep being famous at home. Love you.